Small businesses have been hit hard during COVID-19, and we're discussing what resources are available to help them recover. That's today on Nevada Week.
Support for Nevada Week is provided by Senator William H. Hernstat, Cashman Equipment, and additional supporting sponsors.
After Governor Steve Sisolak directed all non-essential businesses to temporarily shut down, many small businesses closed their doors. From restaurants to retail, the local small business economy has been drastically scaled back. However, there may be a light at the end of the tunnel. Congress has approved a small business relief package that will hopefully allow small businesses to weather the storm. To discuss the benefits available to small businesses, we are joined by Mary Beth Seawold, President and CEO of the Vegas Chamber, Shondell Newsom, Chair of the Urban Chamber of Commerce Executive Board, Peter Guzman, President of the Latin Chamber of Commerce. Well, we are very lucky to have three different chambers here to talk about small business and some of the federal relief that we have. First off, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And I just wanted to start just giving a little bit of an overview here. Nevada has more than 270,000 small businesses. We employ over 480,000 Nevadans. That's roughly 42% of our entire workforce. We are seeing, and just in the news today, on time of recording, we've got more than 17 million people out of work nationally. Probably our numbers are going to be well over 200,000 of unemployment claims we have now. And Peter, I just want to start, in addition to just some of the unemployment that we are seeing, can you give us some greater context on what small businesses and also some of these closures mean for our state's economy?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Certainly, this is devastating. I think what people lose sight of, especially with our chamber, we have quite a bit of restaurant owners. The restaurant business is big in our chamber, and what people I think lose sight of is the profit margins. A lot of people assume that the profit margins are huge, and they're not, especially in the restaurant business. So very, very small margins, employing a lot of people, and all of a sudden, from one week to the next, you're doing shit. That means your profits are zero. That's devastating for a small business, and it has a tremendous ramification.
And one of those things also that we need to talk about, Mary Beth, is the tax revenue, our local and our state tax revenue that small businesses are providing here. And we talk about something like gaming and tourism. The Nevada Resort Association has said we could potentially lose $1 billion in tax revenue, both local and state, if we are closed for 90 days. That is incorporating some of the ancillary businesses, but not all of them, that are supporting gaming and tourism and our conventions. Can you put this in context at all of how much tax revenue we could be losing the longer that we're closed here?
Well, you're right. It could potentially be devastating on so many levels. And like you said, upwards of $1 billion could be, and it just depends on how long this goes.
Shondell, Peter already mentioned restaurants. What businesses are you seeing that are really hit the hardest right now?
Well, it's really professional services a lot more with the Urban Chamber. We encourage people to do contracts with, like we got a lot of people who are doing contracts at the Raider Stadium or with some of the casinos or in government. So if the government shuts down and some of those contracts have been delayed, they are suffering because now they can't get any extensions or anything on those contracts, or those contracts have been deleted or have expired. So, and we were very aggressively working hard to get them to do business with some of the larger entities. And now that the larger entities are down, just like Mary Beth said, the longer it goes, the harder it is for those smaller businesses. So there's a big trickle down effect. And then, the biggest challenge for a lot of our small businesses is we've encouraged them to grow, and they've gotten employees. And I agree with Peter that, the first thing we want to do is try to avoid putting a lot of people on unemployment, because then that has a strain on all the other services in the community.
And then let's talk more specifically about some of the federal relief that has come through. Of course, the flagship program is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, better known as the CARES Act now. A significant number of the allocations, as you've already mentioned, are directed at keeping employees on payroll. A lot of the specific provisions are going to small business supports here. Mary Beth, I want to start with you. What are some of the key provisions that the Vegas Chamber is encouraging businesses to pursue right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're very much encouraging our members to sign up for the payroll protection program. That one is specifically intended to keep people employed, keep the money flowing. And we've done a lot of all three of our organizations, including the LVGEA, have done several webinars in order to try to help people navigate through those websites and that application process. That in our mind is one of the key pieces that will help keep revenue flowing and to keep our economy a little more stable.
And that the Paycheck Protection Program you're talking about is about $360 billion. In addition to that, Shondell, are there any of the other provisions that you're recommending? We've got some tax incentives here. We have some deferral programs as well. We also have some debt relief. Any of those programs particularly important for small businesses here in Nevada?
So we share all of the information, and we make sure that all of our businesses are respectively involved and engaged. But I know the EIDL is one of the things that we've been making sure that our small businesses paid attention to, because it's just real important that those disaster loans help people to go further, even beyond this economic downturn. And one of the things I want to touch on when it comes to employees, understand this, that even the restaurants that Peter talks about, the businesses, a lot of family-owned businesses are part of the Las Vegas Metro Chamber, including ours, and a lot of family-owned businesses are part of the Urban Chamber. So when we talk about employees, it's even bigger than us. When it comes to laying people off, that is not an easy task for a lot of us. My daughter sat there and I coached her through how to make this work, but we always look out for our employees. We don't want to lay anybody off. It's more personal for us than anything else. So a lot of these loan packages, as Peter said, is not necessarily going to make us rich and wealthy. They're going to actually help us sustain so we can continue to hire and take care of those families.
That's the key. I mean, I go back to, it's hard for a business to lay people off, but when we get back to business, it can be hard to bring people back that their spirit is broken, right? And so that's what this you got to try to prevent all these layoffs, because it creates a hardship on the businesses as well, retraining and bringing people back, and it's just a whole ramification thing. And so I hope that everybody understands again what I said about the fact that mass layoffs leads to a lot of other issues in our community.
And Mary Beth, let's talk more about the resources that we connect small businesses to. You already mentioned some of the webinars that the Chamber has hosted, and also Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance has hosted as well. I particularly use those to prepare for this show. They're extremely helpful. What other resources does the Vegas Chamber have that our small business community can access right now?
Well, one of the biggest things that we're doing is connecting our members directly to the people. For example, the SBA, Wells Fargo, the other banks. We have all of those organizations are members of the chamber. So the thing that has meant the most to our members is when they call or they send us an email, I will step in directly and connect them with individuals at those institutions and organizations that can help answer their questions personally. That has probably been one of the biggest resources that we've been blessed to be able to provide directly to our members.
And what kind of traffic are you getting right now? Are you inundated with people calling?
We really are. One of the biggest things that we're getting calls about is, believe it or not, is unemployment. It's not just our members calling us to try to access information about how to fill out these applications for the PPP or for EIDL and things like that. That's big. But the other biggest topic that we're getting phone calls on is individuals calling us to say, help us file for unemployment. How can we get in touch with DETR and things like that? So we've been connecting people directly with individuals at DETR as well to help people fill out those unemployment forms and to navigate through their website.
Shondell, Peter, are you getting similar requests? And what type of resources are both the Latin Chamber and the Urban Chamber providing right now too?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, the Latin Chamber's been around 45 years, so it just comes with the territory. I realized when I became president of the chamber that not only are businesses relying on us, but just individuals. So we kept our hotline number open. We get calls and we try to address everything from unemployment to social issues to big businesses and small businesses.
Well, the Urban Chamber instantly put up a resource page after the first webinar with everything, with the SBA and the Las Vegas Chamber and the Metro Chamber and with LVGEA. We put up a resource page, and I know Ken Evans has kept his staff answering questions. Like Peter said, there's so many different resources, whether it's DEETR, whether it's social services, whatever is the need, we make sure that we're connecting our members to that so that they can give that information back out to their community, back out to their employees. We also use our radio show on Power 88 to with business and industry to make sure that we put out resources and not just talk about the resources that we're about, we're people are about to receive, but also we're starting to talk about what do they do with those resources, because recovery is going to be extremely important for a lot of these small businesses.
I think it's important. I think it's important that we mention the business information network that all the chambers and LVGA put together, and it's a landing page with all the resources right on one page, and I think that's been really really well received.
Have links on all of our websites. There's COVID-19 response.com. That's a great resource. But I would agree with Peter, the Business Information Network that has been put together by Governor Sisolak's Business Economic Operations Center, our task force, that's been an amazing resource, and it's getting a lot of traffic because we've got every resource listed there that you can imagine.
I want to talk briefly about some of the challenges right now accessing some of these loans, especially the Paycheck Protection Program. Most of these loans are being distributed through our local banking, our local lenders. Nationally, some of the concerns have been that the loans have been coming out in more of a trickle, that there's been customer prioritization sometimes with current customers, and that there's also lending caps. We saw that initially with Wells Fargo having a $10 billion lending cap initially. Mary Beth, let's start with you. What's the response that you're seeing in the business community right now? Are we getting access to these loans?
Yeah, unfortunately, most of the banks were overwhelmed within the first day. And they did have caps. I spoke with the CEO of Wells Fargo, who was one of the first to be inundated and had to close their process. So there is a lot of frustration out there. People are very scared, very nervous. But the folks who, unfortunately, it's kind of a competition, and our businesses are having to compete with one another to access these funds. And so, because there's such a rush to get those funds, it has been an overwhelming experience for most of the banks. We have a webinar coming up next week at the Vegas Chamber with additional banks and credit unions as well. That's happening next week, and that, I think, will go a long way toward answering a lot of these questions and alleviating some of that pressure, because they have a few more avenues through which to access these funds.
And Shondell, it's a great point, Mary Beth, and we are dealing with a very early process. It was only approved 2 weeks ago. One of the biggest, the biggest bill that actually has ever gone through Congress for relief. Shondell, are you feeling pretty optimistic that we are going to see a lot more loans here locally come through in the next couple weeks?
I feel optimistic as far as the loans coming through. I just think that, like Mary Beth said, that the banks were overwhelmed a little bit. This is a new process to all of them. And I know even when you're talking about government and private and trying to put things together, for us as small businesses, we just we move at a whole different pace. And a mentor of mine told me this before, that, a small business moves at a pace of a rabbit, and unfortunately, because of all of the moving parts, sometimes the government and sometimes the larger entities have to move a lot slower. So we and I know a lot of small business owners are getting, they get a little impatient because we are paid to figure stuff out real quick. and in order for us to even just survive. So typically, when there are hiccups or things that are challenging for us, we get very and we become frustrated. I've been encouraging a lot of our small business owners to keep the faith, and I know the money's coming, but it may not be coming at the same pace that they want it to come.
I'm not very good at being diplomatic about this subject. Here's the deal. Access to capital is difficult even during normal times for small businesses. And then if you're a minority owned business, it's another whole layer of frustration where it's almost impossible to get access to capital. So I'm hoping that this money lands now. And I'm hoping that what we've learned from this is that we have to give access to capital to small businesses. They are the engine that runs this community, this country.
Let's talk about some of the additional relief then. First off, we mentioned again the Paycheck Protection Program, $360 billion in that fund, Mary Beth. Already Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin has said and appealed to Congress to put an additional $250 billion into that. Add those two together. Sometimes you do the math here. Right now it looks like the average loan's about $250,000. It still doesn't add up. Is this enough money?
No, I don't think it is enough money. And I see Peter and Shondell kind of shaking their heads as well. I don't think it's enough money. And it's like Peter said, we have to get this cash into the hands of these small businesses because they're the fabric of our community. They're the economic engine, and they're the ones who will make or break the future of this entire country if we don't step up and help them as soon as possible. And that's the other thing a lot of our members were saying, the tax breaks are great and all the other aspects of some of these programs that are being offered, but if they don't have money, there will be nothing to pay taxes on anyway. So the key is to get this cash into the hands of these businesses now.
We just have another minute here. I want to do more of a call to action for us consumers here. Obviously, we are quarantined, we're practicing social distancing, and we're dealing with non-essential business closures all around us, or at least small businesses that have limited services as well. What are some of the recommendations, Shondell, that we can do right now to support our small business communities?
Well, I think going back to the restaurants, a lot of those places are doing takeout and they're doing delivery. Try your best to support them if you're going to get anything outside of your home. Make sure that you support the local small businesses, because that's what we've been trying to do on a regular basis, because we understand that any cash in their hands is going to help them out.
Peter, I've heard gift cards kind of paying for futures here of local restaurants and some of your local salons and things like that. Do you recommend that?
Yeah, absolutely. All of that matters. As corny as this sounds, I have a Cora date tomorrow with my wife. Last Friday we did it, and we had Laurie's curbside. It was amazing. They put it in your trunk. Never had to deal with anybody. Let's do that. Let's all try to do that. And I know I read something where Chili's has their curbside has returned about 38% of their revenue. So it really will help if we can do those kind of things.
The Vegas Chamber is in the early stages of putting together a program right now called COVID Kindness, and we're working with the Las Vegas Metro Police Department's foundation to set up a gift card program where you can go on the website and purchase a gift card from any company in Nevada. We're going to run it across the entire state. It can be our members, it can be Latin Chamber members, Urban Chamber members, anybody can buy a gift card from a business. So that helps put money into the pockets of our companies. But through the Las Vegas Metro Police Department's foundation, those gift cards are going to be donated to first responders like police officers and nurses and so forth. So that's another way that the Vegas Chamber is trying very hard to get money into the pockets of our businesses.
Great program. Well, Mary Beth, Shondell, Peter, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. We really appreciate your experience and insight as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all that you do at PBS. Vegas PBS is a great community partner.
I appreciate that, Peter. Thank you. Congressman Stephen Horsford has been fighting for our small businesses on Capitol Hill. He joined us to discuss Congress's latest relief efforts. Well, Congressman Horsford, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me on. It's good to be back on.
And let's start with just that the House is on an extended break. You're following a lot of the same social distancing procedures that we are following right now. I hear day to day can even be busier for a delegate when you are really working remotely as you are right now. Is that true?
It is. It's a different type of busy. We are staying engaged first and foremost with our constituents. I've had a number of telephone town halls. We have more than 10 scheduled over the next couple of weeks. We've conducted 5 so far, just to provide critical information from unemployment insurance to the small business loan program to making sure people know about the direct cash payments.
You mentioned small business initially as one of the big concerns of how to access some of the funds that are through CARES Act here. There have been some frustrations nationally. Some have called it a trickle. $360 billion that have come through is coming through too slow. There are others that are concerned that there might be too much money flowing to too few businesses and that it's not diversifying enough to a lot of the vulnerable small businesses. I'm wondering, what are you hearing first from some of the local businesses here within your district?
The concerns that you expressed are absolutely the concerns that we are hearing. Again, whether it's on my telephone town hall, I actually had one telephone town hall with the SBA administrator talking about the Paycheck Protection Program, and we had a number of small businesses on that. A lot of these quote unquote small businesses that are really big business in this program are the ones that have the infrastructure and the sophistication in order to really get their applications considered first. They also have, these preferred relationships with a lot of these lenders. One of the things that we are looking to do in the next CARES package is to actually segregate or call out smaller businesses, those with 50 employees or fewer, for example, and to carve out, I should say, the benefits for those businesses. I'm a member of the Ways and Means Committee, and we raised these concerns that too many small businesses, mom and pop small businesses, do not feel like they can really compete in this pool, and that we need to have some set-aside funds for them.
Now, at time of recording, the Senate package was not successful. The congressional package has not been successful as well. Or, I'm sorry, 2 Senate packages have not been successful. What's holding this up right now? You mentioned the split, and half of the $250 billion that Treasury Secretary Mnuchin has proposed, in addition that we use for the Paycheck Protection Program, would then go to these small vulnerable businesses that you've been talking about. Is that the holdup, or is there something else that's holding up just moving that money through and approving it so quickly?
Well, first, let's be clear. There's $349 billion, which was approved, and only about 20% of that fund has been obligated, meaning there are applications up to about 20% of that fund. So the real issue is this. Yes, we have to help our small businesses, and the Payment Protection Program is one of many ways to do that. We also have to continue to help our first responders and other essential workers that are on the front lines of this crisis.
And Congressman, we're almost out of time. We got about another minute, but I want to talk more about this robust bill that you mentioned right here. One of the other provisions of the CARES Act number 2 or 2.0, as it's being referred to, is $250 billion provision for smaller cities and communities that were left out of the original relief funds that we saw. We're looking at your district, and we're looking at maybe a city like Mesquite. Why is this funding so important?
It's so important because the city leaders, the mayors and county officials that are on the front line providing emergency management also need to be able to receive state and local stabilization funds. We need to make sure that the funding is getting to every community, large and small, and I am a supporter of that legislation to help some of our smaller cities and counties get direct funding from this stimulus package. I just want people to know, and thank you to Vegas PBS for getting this message out to your viewers. If they do need help, they can always contact my office at horsford.house.gov. If they're having challenges with the federal program or agency, or just have a question, we actually have guides. So please visit our website, get that information. We know how important it is to have accurate, real-time information. And so thank you for helping to get this message out. We appreciate it very, very much.
Absolutely, and thank you. Thank you so much, Congressman, for your time. We really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us today on Nevada Week. To access any of the resources discussed on the show, please visit our website at vegaspbs.org/Nevada-week. You can also find us on social media at Nevada Week. Stay healthy and stay strong.
My fellow Nevadans, please follow Governor Sisolak's direction.
As Nevadans, we must all work together to care for one another and to act with compassion.
By staying home, we can protect our loved ones and our neighbors.
And never forget that as Nevadans, we're all in this together.
Thank you, Governors, for your lifetime love and support for the Silver State. If home means Nevada to you, stay home for Nevada. Visit www.nvhealthresponse.nv.gov for more information.